Hello, it's Randi Rhodes. Here's a clip from our show, and go to randirhodes.com for the whole thing and a podcast. Buy a stinking podcast.
Mary had a little man.
The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream. Change has come to America.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
Relate my entire life and have lost many loved ones to gun violence. This is normal. Normal to the point that I've learned to duck from bullets before I learned how to read. My brother, he was in high school when he passed away. It was a day like any other day. Sunset going down on South Central. You hear pops thinking they're fireworks. They weren't pops. You see the melanin on your brother's skin turn gray. Ricardo was his name.
Wow, that was amazing. Hello, everybody. Hello. We got rid of a child. We got rid of a child in a good way. These children on Saturday, the parents of these children and the relatives of these children and the brothers and sisters of these children, they got rid of a child in a terrible way. You know, we married one off, and I got to say, you know, when you do that, the sense of accomplishment that you feel, bye-bye, you're out of the house, good luck, have a nice life, is not the same as losing a child, which, you know, my mother knows, not through gun violence, but through disease. But these kids were so amazingly awesome in their organization, their pleas, their plan, their battle plan for this disease that's it's killing this generation. They've never gone to school a day in their lives where they didn't think about school shootings, or they weren't, on lockdown drills like we used to have fire drills. I mean, it was just, and so this March for Our Lives, it was all over the place. I got to tell you, I know people that marched in Maui. I know Jessica marched in L.A. I know people who marched in New York and D.C. I was in Austin, Texas. There was a march there. It was all over. It was all over the country, and people have had it. And so the NRA is starting to freak out, and the Second Amendment types are starting to go after these kids who are leading these protests because they're gun nuts, okay? And all they know how to do is target things, including survivors of gun violence. I swear to God, how could you possibly want to do any more harm to people like Samantha Fuentes?
Regardless of how much money you pay or how much you pray, if you don't change anything today, your children will no longer stay. So when do we say enough is enough? Day in and day out, our kids are getting shot up. And the moment we speak up, we're scolded that we are not old enough. It is as if we need permission to ask our friends not to die. Lawmakers and politicians will scream guns are not the issue, but can't look me in the eye. I just threw up on international television, and it feels great. We're not asking for a ban, we're asking for compromise. Forget your sides and colors, let's save one another. Use efficient regulation that doesn't make any exception. Close the cracks and loopholes with thorough background checks and psychological evaluation. Protect our schools like we do our other government establishments. Use security protocol and methods that are efficient. And one more request, listen. Our mission is simple and our ambitions are unbeatable. Let's keep the guns out of the hands of the wrong people and keep them in the hands of the safe and reasonable. So either you can join us or be on the side of history who prioritize their guns over the lives of others.
Oh my God, isn't that exactly the right sentiment right there? That the gun lobby prioritizes guns over our children. The gun lobby prioritizes, their business over the lives of others. This is what I was telling you. You know, all these years, you know, post Columbine, Sandy Hook, etc. You know, I've always been a broadcaster, and I knew we lost our ability to guide a meaningful assault weapons ban or a meaningful bill that would do real background checks and close the gun show loophole and close the internet loophole and, you know, get the states to turn over all the data on every domestic violence, person or any sex offender or anybody who's done any violence, you know, so that they, and I knew after Sandy Hook that we had lost the argument because you had the NRA saying stupid, disgusting, really bone-chilling things like, that's the price we pay for freedom. That dead 6-year-olds was the price we paid for freedom. I mean, that to me, I said, okay, we've lost it. We've lost the argument. The argument is done. It's over. It's lost. Because if America actually agrees with that sentiment, that the price you pay for freedom is dead 6-year-olds in the middle of a classroom and school teachers who teach them dead in the middle of a classroom, if that's the price you're willing to pay to keep on, holding on to these guns, then we've lost it. We've lost the argument. And we've lost morality. We've lost decency. We've lost all sense of, perception about what is important. And of course, the gun business, which is what the NRA represents. They're lobbyists for the industry, for gun manufacturers. And if they can prioritize their business over the lives of 6-year-olds in Sandy Hook, then obviously we've lost the argument. Now, they're still trying. They're still out there. These people are, the gun nuts are so nutty. I mean, they are so without moral compass. They are so lost in their gun culture. They are so lost in the idea that a gun is more important than these kids all over the country who face gun violence in places like Chicago, in places like Baltimore, in places like their schools, in places like elementary school, in high schools, in movie theaters, in all the concerts, the Las Vegas dude, okay? I mean, that's all they care about is their business. Their business. It shall not be disturbed. It's like they're the mafia, and they're still trying so hard to discredit these kids, just the same way that they discredited anybody and everybody who ever spoke sanity about assault weapons needed to be banned the way they were banned from 1994 to 2004, and then we got a Bush. Okay. And then 2008, the Supreme Court came along with a decision that changed the entire course of American history to date. From 1791 to 2008, there was never, ever a Supreme Court that ever recognized an individual right to own a gun. Never happened. And then in 2008, the deceased Antonin Scalia, who our president thinks was murdered by being snuffed out with a pillow over his face. Oh, I swear to God, the lunatics got to write the opinion. And the lunatic, even though he could not devise anything or find anything in the Constitution that said that Americans had the right to own any weapon that they wanted, including AR-15s or an AK-47 or a Kalashnikov or any semi-automatic rifle or automatic rifle or machine gun, he couldn't find that. But what he was able to mangle and manipulate was, oh, yeah, there's an individual right to own a gun. No. We don't have an individual right to own a gun. Every single decision by the Supreme Court prior to that one in 2008 said that the ownership of a gun had everything to do with service in the militia, which is the National Guard now. And they're still not giving up. They have doctored photographs of the girls from the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas. They were tearing up a shooting target, the target that you use at shooting ranges. So these girls were all together and they took a little movie of themselves tearing up the shooting range target. And the gun nuts decided that they would Photoshop it and manipulate the video, and now has these girls tearing up the U.S. Constitution. And the fake meme got passed around the internet at a rate that exceeded the actual tearing up of the shooting range target. That's how the bots, and that's how this social media platform is working now, or not working now, however you look at it. I got to tell you, it just made me sick. And then Rick Santorum has to mosey onto the TV, and he tells this to the kids. This is supposed to be a man of, he's a good Catholic, and everything family is like sacred, and children and you can't get divorced, and family this and family. This was his advice to these kids.
How about kids, instead of looking to someone else to solve their problem, do something about maybe taking CPR classes or trying to deal with situations where there is a violent shooter. That you
how
can
are they looking at other people?
I
would ask you, they took action.
Yeah, they took action to ask someone to pass a law. They didn't take action to say, how do I, as an individual, deal with this problem? How am I going to do something about stopping bullying within my own community? What am I going to do to actually help respond to a shooter? What am I going to do? Those are the kinds of things where you can take it internally and say, here's how I'm going to deal with this. Here's how I'm going to help the situation, instead of going and protesting and saying, oh, someone else needs to pass a law to protect me.
I've got a kid who's going to be in high school next year, and I want him focused on algebra and other stuff. If his main way to survive high school is learning CPR, so when his friend gets shot, he can keep that. To me, we've gone too far.
Can you imagine this? I mean, you had kids as young as 6 years old. You had Martin Luther King's granddaughter up there. You had an 11-year-old girl who was just an amazing advocate for living free in a society. And Rick Santorum said that instead of them using their First Amendment rights to show their representatives, to show the democracy that is America, that there are more people that are for sane gun safety laws and restrictions against owning, semi-automatic weapons of war. Rick Santorum said that instead of protesting to scare the bejesus out of Congress, that they will not get reelected, especially by these kids. So some of them are old enough to vote. Some of them are 18. Some of them are 17 and will be old enough to vote. He said that they should be taking CPR classes and trying to deal with the situation after the shooting occurs. This is a senator. This is a former senator. A senator who wants to keep his gun so bad that he wants the kids to mop up the blood. This is what they should do in school. They should get CPR training and a mop and a bucket and get to work cleaning up the pools of blood that are left after an assault weapon is used to pulverize the organs of 11, 12, 13, 14, 15-year-olds and 6-year-olds. I mean, he's saying we're not going to stop the shooting, so you need to learn how to stop the bleeding. Everybody go to Home Depot and get yourself a industrial strength mop and bucket and a couple of tourniquets, and just let's be glad that the NRA doesn't object to us treating the victims. Because, I could see an argument that they could make going, well, then the shooter would have to pause in the shooting, and it makes it also inconvenient to use your weapon in the proper manner, and you have to stop. And holy crap. I mean, I got to say, Saturday, everybody was, just completely blown away by these kids. Grateful that finally a movement has started. Finally, a generation has come along that said, what you should know about us is we've never been to school where there weren't school shooting drills, and we're sick of it. Enough is enough. Go to RandiRhodes.com for the whole thing and a podcast. Buy a stinking podcast.